Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock, trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
With a 5 p.m. deadline today fast approaching and a $6 million Bitcoin ransom demand on the table, Nancy Guthrie remains missing with no confirmed breakthroughs now 9 days into the investigation. The 84-year-old mother of NBC Today co-anchor
Nancy Guthrie's family says they will pay for her safe return as a possible ransom deadline approaches. An unverified ransom note is demanding $6 million in Bitcoin by this evening. And in a new video, Today Show host Savannah Guthrie and Nancy's other children say they'll pay, but they need proof of life first. Meanwhile, police returned to Nancy's Arizona home this weekend, but say they still don't have any suspects. Chief Investigator Correspondent Aaron Katersky is in Tucson, Arizona with more.
With no suspects and no leads, and faced with a demand for Bitcoin and a deadline today imposed by someone claiming to be her mother's kidnapper, Savannah Guthrie solemnly pledged to pay for Nancy Guthrie's return.
We received your message, and we understand. We beg you now.
The 84-year-old was last seen in her home in Tucson Saturday night. The sheriff's department says they have not identified any suspects in what is believed to be an abduction. Now let's bring in ABC News' Trevor.
Fox News alert, the final deadline for the Nancy Guthrie ransom just passed. The alleged kidnappers demanding $6 million by 7 Eastern. Just moments ago, Savannah Guthrie released this.
We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock, trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
This is the first time Savannah has spoken directly to the public. Previous videos were mainly aimed at the kidnappers. Many feared Nancy was no longer alive and that negotiations had taken a dark turn after Savannah put this video out on Saturday.
We received your message, and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
This suggested to some that the Guthries were willing to pay for the return of their mother's body. But then, late Saturday night, unmarked police vehicles returned once again to Annie Guthrie's house. That's the sister and her husband, Tommaso. Law enforcement stayed for more than 2 hours. Cameras flashed inside the house, and reporters heard loud clanking noises as several items were carried out and loaded into police vehicles. At one point, an agent was seen carrying a silver briefcase, possibly a Celebrite device, typically used to analyze iPhones and computers. This would be the second time investigators brought the device to Annie Guthrie's house. Later, a deputy was seen loading a white case along with a brown bag into a police vehicle. Does this suggest authorities are scrutinizing the family? Does this mean they don't believe their side of the story? We have no idea. It could very well be routine, but with no suspects and the sheriff not ruling anybody out, it does raise a lot of questions. 10:30 at night seems very late to be conducting sudden searches of the sister's house. They must have gotten new information, or perhaps there was something so urgent they couldn't wait for the morning. We assume the Guthrie family's cooperating with authorities. We have no reason to believe they aren't. The next day, Sunday, investigators searched a septic tank behind Nancy's home, looking for possible evidence that may have been flushed. Fox News examined the area surrounding the property. Watch.
Wanted to give you a different point of view. So you've got Nancy's house, it's in the middle, and the lots are large enough for privacy. We walked the front of the properties, and on one side, mailbox to mailbox, it's about 300 feet. On the other side, it's a little closer. But with both homes that flank her house, there are lines of vegetation, there's space and cactus. And from what we could gather, it appears the neighbors to the back may have the best vantage point to her home.
Authorities haven't even determined whether the ransom notes are legitimate. As far as we know, they could be real or they could be hoaxes. And so far, whoever's sending these messages hasn't provided proof of life. Authorities have said there's been no video or no pictures proving Nancy's still alive in anyone's captivity. Although these messages could contain written details that only Nancy and the family would know that prove someone has her. Also new tonight, the FBI is saying it's not aware of any continued communication between the Guthrie family and suspected kidnappers, nor have we identified a suspect or person of interest in this case at this time. There's also a new question about the note itself, which specified that the payment be made in U.S. dollars, suggesting the senders could be outside the country or foreign actors, or the messages could just be written by AI. The sheriff's department, after doing a ton of media, suddenly doesn't have anything to say. The Nancy Guthrie investigation is ongoing. Follow-up continues at multiple locations. No suspects, persons of interest, or vehicles have been identified. No scheduled press briefings. If any significant developments occur in this case, a press conference will be called. So no time for a briefing, but the sheriff did have time for a basketball game. Here he is at the University of Arizona Wildcats game on Saturday, just minutes before Savannah released the video saying she'd pay. So Savannah paid the ransom? We don't know.
Guthrie's desperate plea coming 3.5 hours before the second deadline, which was given as 7 Eastern tonight, obviously just a couple of minutes ago. Now, that's according to the original alleged ransom note, a note which demanded $6 million by 5 p.m. local time. That's 7 o'clock Eastern, according to our affiliate KGUN. But according to TMZ, the Bitcoin account referenced in the ransom note still has a zero balance.
We believe our mom is still out there.
Savannah Guthrie, sitting alone, makes a direct appeal to the public for help in the search for her missing mother, Nancy Guthrie, 9 days after she was taken in the middle of the night from her home in Tucson, Arizona.
We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where.
It's been 3 days since the alleged kidnapper sent a second ransom note to a local TV station after demanding $6 million. The latest note did not include a deadline. The FBI and the local sheriff's department have searched Nancy's neighborhood day and night, scouring her home, her rooftop, even an underground septic tank near her property. Searches by air and ground of the nearby foothills and desert, and still Nancy's no closer to coming home. Savannah and her family are reaching out again, this time for more than prayers, asking people to look for their mother wherever they can.
No matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement.
Expressing gratitude in this horrific moment as she appeals to everyone concerned about her mother's fate.
Thank you so much for all of the prayers, because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers, and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place.
This is the fourth video the family has posted to social media, including 2 from all 3 of Nancy's children and 1 video just from her son. Previous posts were aimed at the kidnappers.
First, we have to know that you have our mom. We went to talk to you, and we are waiting for contact.
And even directly to their mom.
Everyone is looking for you, Mommy, everywhere. We will not rest.
On Saturday, the siblings again reached out to the potential kidnappers, offering payment.
We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
With each message, another glimpse into this nightmare that Nancy Guthrie's family is facing, seemingly with no end in sight.
We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
You've been looking at the Bitcoin account. What are you reporting?
There's nothing there. It has not been deposited. Aaron, I was thinking of something that you raised on Friday when you spoke to the reporter from KOLD and asked about the second note. And you asked her if this was a ransom note. And she kind of carefully said that she doesn't think authorities would characterize it as a ransom note. The only other thing I can think of, what if, and I don't know this, but I'm just raising this, what if there was another Bitcoin address in that second ransom letter that doesn't align with the one we received? I don't know why they would do this, and it doesn't make sense to me, because if Savannah did pay this money, I don't know that it's in her interest to do an APB for everybody to look out for somebody who might have her mom, or to find her mom, if they paid the money and they're waiting for the return of their mother. I don't know that she would go out with a call like that. So on a level, I don't see why there would be another Bitcoin account. But I think it's possible it was in this letter. I want to read you I'll read you one line from the ransom note we received. And they say, "It is in the best interest of everyone to have this completed as soon as possible." So, you know, this was way back when the first ransom note was issued, and days passed. And on Saturday, Savannah said, "We are going to pay this." So it's baffling to us. We just don't understand what has transpired, but the account we're looking at does not show a deposit.
And so you said the original sentence was, "It is in the best interest of everyone to have this completed as soon as possible." All right. So now I understand exactly what you're saying, right? It was interesting that the way that reporter who had seen the second letter did characterize it as not a ransom note. But so we don't know if there was an additional address in it or not. But when you talk about the Bitcoin address itself, my understanding is, Harvey, it's not hard to check it. I mean, you're checking it frequently, right? That Bitcoin address?
Not hard to check it, but almost impossible, and maybe impossible to find out who is it going to. That's the issue. But we're not seeing a deposit, and we've been looking obviously all day, and we looked at 4 o'clock our time, 5 o'clock Tucson time, and we're not seeing it.
And you know, we were talking to a crypto expert, John Griffin. He was saying, okay, whoever set up this particular Bitcoin account does show a basic level of crypto knowledge, which is certainly consistent with everything else, right? No one has been able to find out the whereabouts of Nancy Guthrie, so there's nothing basic about the activities here. But then he added, if they're a sophisticated crypto operator, that they will move the funds, he said, in such a way that it'll go to other cryptocurrencies, and then the tracks will disappear. Because, we all hear, oh, Bitcoin's supposed to be all transparent. Although then we hear, but no one will have any idea on God's green earth whose account this is. But, that the fact that they could transfer this from Bitcoin into other cryptocurrencies. Are you hearing this also, Harvey, from your experts?
Yeah, I mean, look, what we're hearing is that it should show up at least at some point. I mean, we're checking this every minute. It should show up at some point in this account, and we just haven't seen it. But again, Aaron, I'm just puzzled that Savannah said on Saturday they were going to pay the money. And clearly they were responding to something in that letter when she said, we understand and we will pay. So it meant that they hadn't yet, but will, and we're not seeing it. But if she did pay, why this new video?
New information from the Pima County Sheriff tonight in the search for Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy. The sheriff saying in his statement just a moment ago, quote, many of you observed an active law enforcement presence at the Guthrie residences over the weekend. That activity will continue tonight and into tomorrow as part of the ongoing investigative process, including the expansion of the search and follow up on new leads. Now, we saw the search of a septic tank at Nancy Guthrie's home over the weekend, and at least 3 deputy sheriffs were seen at Savannah's sister Annie's house as well. Officials left with a bag, and 1 deputy sheriff was seen wearing blue latex gloves. Out front now, Mary Ellen O'Toole, former FBI senior profiler, and Michael Alcazar, retired NYPD hostage negotiator. I appreciate both of you. So, Michael, we were told Nancy Guthrie's home had been turned back over to the family last week, and that happened pretty early on. Since then, though, numerous searches, right? They found a device on the roof that a neighbor had alerted them something might be up there. They had that. Then we saw them at the septic tank. We've obviously, seen them go back and forth many times. The crime scene tape went up, but not for a couple days after the initial alleged abduction. What does all this say to you?
To me, it seems like they probably rushed in releasing the crime scene. Probably they didn't process the crime scene to the best of their ability. I don't know what was the rush in releasing it. Now they're getting more information. Now they have to revisit it. And of course, we saw in the past that people have been in the crime scene. News outlets have been in the crime scene, which has now contaminated the crime scene, which just makes it a little bit harder to process because now you have more DNA, more fingerprints, more footprints in the crime scene. So I think they probably dropped the ball a little bit in releasing that crime scene too early.
Mary Ellen, we just got a new statement in here from the FBI, and I want to note the context here, of course. It's about half an hour after the first ransom note's final deadline. And the FBI statement says, the FBI is not aware of any continued communication between the Guthrie family and the suspected kidnappers, nor have we identified a suspect or person of interest in this case at this time. Now, Mary Ellen, that fits with what would be publicly known, right? But if anybody thought that there was anything private that we weren't aware of, this tries to disabuse us of that notion. How surprised are you at this point that they would say no suspect, no person of interest, no communication?
That is surprising because the point of either not saying that or saying something to suggest that they're looking at a number of people, which essentially would be correct. They're not ruling out anybody, really keeps the pressure on the offender, on the kidnapper, the kidnappers. And that's an important thing to do, to keep pressure on them, because when there's pressure on the person that's responsible, they will make mistakes, or they'll say something to somebody else that'll just blurt it out like, don't they know what they're talking? They have no idea what they're talking about. This is ridiculous or something.
One thing that's clear is the Guthrie family believes there is at least a chance the ransom notes are from Nancy's captor or captors. There's no other explanation for the 3 Instagram videos from Savannah's account where the siblings ask for further communication about how to get their mother home. To help us analyze all this, we wanted to bring in a seasoned hostage negotiator, and it's hard to find someone with more experience than our next guest. Commander Daniel O'Shea is a retired Navy SEAL who served as the coordinator of the hostage working group for the U.S. Embassy in Iraq from 2004 to 2006. O'Shea managed more than 400 hostage incidents in his time in Iraq, and by the time he left, kidnappings had dropped to the single digits. Dan, welcome to the show.
It's my pleasure and honor to be here, Megan.
Okay, so we're going to play it one more time, the latest video, and get your take on what, if anything, you think has changed here. Here it is. This was released on Saturday night.
We received your message and we understand.
We begin with breaking news. A ransom deadline relating to Nancy Guthrie, mother of Today host Savannah Guthrie, just passed. This comes as the search for Guthrie and the investigation into her disappearance enters its second week. Guthrie was last seen on the night of January 31st, and since then, her children have released multiple video messages trying to reach whoever took her. Earlier today, Savannah Guthrie posted this video on her Instagram page.
Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock, trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
CBS News correspondent Jonathan Vigliotti is live in Tucson, Arizona. Jonathan, a ransom deadline passed on that heartbreaking Instagram post from Savannah, so desperately searching for help. What do we know about that note?
Yeah, and you can hear the desperation in Savannah Guthrie's voice. Juliet, we have reviewed that note. We are not disclosing anything the FBI hasn't already made public. They're taking it very seriously. It included 2 deadlines. The first one, as you know, passed last Thursday. And now the second one, as you referenced, passed just moments ago, 5 o'clock local time. In it, there was a large sum of Bitcoin requested, but notably no way for the Guthrie family to contact the author of that note. As we've been reporting, it was initially emailed to a local news station on Monday. On Wednesday, we first heard from the Guthrie family asking for proof of life. Then again, on Thursday, after the first deadline passed, on Friday, a second email was sent to the local news station believed to be connected to that ransom note, though the FBI would not disclose its contents. Serious enough, though, that on Saturday, we heard again for the 3rd time from the Guthrie family as they said they were willing to pay. We understand at this point there has been no other communication or message received, which is why earlier today, Savannah Guthrie posting that message. We talk about desperation. It is palpable here on the ground as this search continues, Juliet.
Yeah, and what's happening at this hour? What are we hearing about the search for Nancy Guthrie?
The sheriff actually just put out a statement probably about 20 minutes ago saying that there are no new updates. He did alert the media that the investigation would continue, that investigators would be returning to Nancy Guthrie's home behind me. From this perspective, you are seeing the backyard, and this backyard was a central focal point over the weekend where we had this growing investigation. On Saturday, we saw teams come in. They went on top of the roof and they retrieved what appeared to be a surveillance camera. They also went into the garage and towed a car. And then yesterday, the sheriff's deputies showed back up, appearing to search what looked like a septic tank. They had a pole that they were poking in there. What they were looking for at this point is still unclear, but we do understand that they were following several leads. In terms of surveillance video, nothing has yielded anything. Officials are looking at traffic cameras, and video has been pulled from local gas stations. Those leads have gone cold. Juliet, we can't stress this enough. This is now day 9 of this search. There is no suspect. There is no person of interest. And as this deadline has now passed, there is no proof of life.
All right, Jonathan Bigliotti. Jonathan, thank you. I want to bring in former FBI Special Agent Jeff Harp. You know, Jeff, minutes ago, we passed that deadline included in that ransom demand. Having worked on a hostage rescue team, what do you think the FBI is doing right now?
You know, first of all, I want to make it very clear that law enforcement knows 10 things, and they're probably going to put out 3 of those publicly. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, and certainly many things that go on behind the scenes that they don't want to disclose for a variety of reasons. They don't need these hoaxes. They don't need to jeopardize her safety out there, wherever she might be. So there's many, many things going on, to include the fact that the lack of, you know, I've heard a lot of people complain about the sheriff not reporting. Well, if he's got nothing to report, maybe he should say that, rather than everybody expecting for him to report something. They are working their tails off right now to try to discover what more information they can find.
Yeah, we're on a need-to-know basis, even though it seems eerily quiet sometimes. So let's talk about previous videos. We heard Savannah Guthrie speak directly to whoever has Nancy, but in this newest video, she's really speaking to the public. So what do you make of that? Does that signal a shift in approach?
Well, I mean, so I'm obviously not a behavioral psychologist, but having worked in law enforcement many, many, many years, I sort of see a hope and desperation in her video. And certainly there's things she may know and likely does know that we don't know, and that only law enforcement is sharing with her. It appears to me as though she really wants to reach out to the public because, you know, the old saying, see something, say something. They're really looking for anything. There could be 10,000 of these leads and only one of them may pan out, but that's pretty good odds when you start talking about law enforcement leads. And they will cover their tracks on every single one of these. I saw the previous video of them looking in the septic system. You know, if it was me, I would pump the whole septic system out, and you can filter through that. Sounds very, you know, kind of disgusting, but that's the kind of work that has to be done. There's tremendous amount of digital forensics going on right now, and we're not going to know everything. One, because they don't need to reveal sources and methods. And some of this is kind of public knowledge. If you don't know what you're doing and don't know how to do it, there's no sense in law enforcement making it easier for you to do this sort of thing. Yeah. So there's a lot of things going on behind the scene. Nobody should give up hope yet.
True. We don't need the tutorial of what they're doing. So over the weekend, Savannah and her siblings posted a video saying, "We will pay." So with no breakthrough in the search, does that indicate whoever took Nancy potentially isn't interested in money?
Well, there's a couple interesting things going on. If you think back 30 years ago, we dropped, you know, bags of cash at a park, you know, and had somebody come pick it up. Then 20 years ago, we transferred money to a Swiss bank account or some account in the islands. You know, these things evolved, and we expect for instant gratification. We want to know right now what's happening and how they're going to do it. Things have changed. Now you're talking about Bitcoin. And I heard somebody say earlier tonight on one of the broadcasts that, oh yeah, Bitcoin can do A, B, C, and D. Well, that's great, but why are we broadcasting all that information? You know, because it just enables the kidnappers to look at a different avenue. There's some things that bother me about the investigation, but right now I think they're really, really trying hard to come up with even some sort of proof of life that we know she's out there.
Yeah, and in all of your experience, can you talk to the fact that sometimes a deadline really isn't a hard and fast deadline either?
Right, and so those things go on. Having worked with, as a member of the hostage rescue team, we always deployed with negotiators. And I was on a number of these different operations where we had negotiators working with us. There would be deadlines, and these deadlines sort of have some flexibility built into them, so you're able to do a food delivery, so you're able to meet some sort of a demand. So it allows people to just look at the whole investigation and what can we do to try to open up lines of communication clarification. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of those going on right now. And I know there's some skepticism as to whether, maybe the whole thing that with the ransom or the Bitcoin $6 million could be a hoax. I think that's possible, but right now that's all we have to go on.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff Harp, thank you so much. We'll continue to rely on your expertise. Thanks again for your time.
Sure thing.
Fox News alert, the final deadline for the Nancy Guthrie ransom just passed.
Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock, trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
All right, hour of desperation ahead of this deadline. That's just the new video from Savannah Guthrie, the daughter of Nancy Guthrie. And she said there's still hope out there that Nancy Guthrie potentially could get returned. Lauren, I believe that's the first time you're seeing it. What were your big takeaways? What did you hear there?
Wow. So yes, that was my first time seeing it. And I jotted down some reactions. Number one, she's wearing makeup, it seems, for the first time in over a week. And perhaps that means she got a little bit of rest. I am speculating maybe she found something out that sort of caused her to just let her mind and body rest and give her a chance to take care of herself just a bit. But I also noticed that, she said, we are entering another week of this. Nothing like I'm hoping this is the last day of this because, in pretty much an hour, the money is supposed to be posted. And not only that, in the ransom note, they said, at least to TMZ, that once the money was posted, they'd have Nancy back. I believe it was within the hour. So Savannah's kind of talking like that is not going to be an option at all. I don't know if you caught that as well, but now I'm kind of like, okay, it seems like the ransom note has nothing to do with Nancy's return. She also said somehow and some way she's feeling these prayers. I feel that, if someone is praying for you and you are asking for prayers here, that we would assume the person feels the prayers. I'm not going to say, somehow, some way she's feeling them. You pray for this person because they will feel them. And I think it's grim. I do. I think it's grim, Andy. I'm sorry to say.
And obviously, this is the first time I'm seeing it as well. And you also note the fact that she is alone. Potentially, she's not alongside her siblings, Annie and Cameron, unlike the other two videos that we've seen from Savannah. And of course, that obviously notable, but this one may be potentially a little bit more off the cuff, speaking to anyone out there asking for tips in this way. And you mentioned the grim nature, and just by the fact that she realizes that this deadline is consequential. Does that really reiterate that fact that this 5 p.m. potentially ransom deadline is so very important?
I didn't get that from her. I don't know if you did. I didn't get that. I again would go back to the note saying if they post this money, which Savannah had said yesterday or the day before, we will pay. Why did this video not say, hey, we're going to pay within the hour, so make sure you return our mom? That would seem to be the most obvious thing to say here, and that wasn't said. So now, listen, talk to me in an hour. I might say something different, but as of right now, I am thinking that the ransom note has nothing to do with Nancy Guthrie.
And they are, law enforcement, trying to piece together all of this information to see if it works together. Savannah Guthrie, they're posting that on social media. Lauren, any other parting words, anything else? Because obviously you mentioned the ransom note potentially not really tied. That would be interesting, as you kind of point out. Anything else you want to let our audience know before I let you go?
Well, I just want to say that someone has already been arrested in California for falsifying a ransom note. And I hope that if this is true, these people are prosecuted to the fullest, because this is straight up emotional torture, and that is not okay.
Yeah, very, very good point. Obviously, they're arrested.
The second deadline from an apparent ransom note quickly approaching. It's set for today at 5 p.m. We are learning new details about what is in that note. Guthrie's purported abductor is demanding $6 million in Bitcoin and threatening to kill her if the demand is not met. That's according to a CNN affiliate. Investigators returned to the scene Sunday, searching Guthrie's property, including a septic tank near her home. Police still have not identified a suspect. So we're bringing in now Ken Gray. He's a former FBI special agent. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Aldi. Good to be with you.
First, I want to talk about the latest video. People are looking at the turns of phrase, among this a plea so that they can celebrate with their mother. Can you talk about how these videos are supposed to help in these situations?
Sure. So the two videos were quite different. The first one seemed to be trying to convince the kidnapper that their mother was a person, that they encouraged them to talk to her, trying to ensure that her safety was taken care of by the kidnapper. The second video, on the other hand, was quite different in that it was much shorter, much more to the point. We'll pay, our mother's return is important to us, and we want to celebrate with her. Very, very different in its tone and nature. The interesting thing here about this is also that the communication from the kidnapper was not an email. Instead, we learned that that this communication came by way of a complaint form or a tips line form going into the television station over its website. And so that's interesting in that that's why we're not seeing investigative steps that will be able to locate the kidnapper through tracking emails.
I'm glad you're bringing that up, because we had one of our voices on air, Josh Campbell, who had some criticism about how this is being handled. Here he is.
I've worked kidnapping cases where if there is an actual line of communication that is set up, that is treated sensitively, that is protected, that is not something that either the family nor the FBI crisis negotiators, for that matter, would actually be publicizing. And so the fact that we see this appeal, again, via social media tells us that they're essentially responding to the alleged abductor here via the medium that they have chosen.
Can you talk about why you think that matters, or if it does?
So there is not two-way communication going on here. The kidnapper is broadcasting his demands. The family is going through social media responding to this, but you don't see an exchange of actual details between the two as you would if they were in direct communication. That causes communication problems, a lack of details. We don't get a sign of life. There was no answer to the request for a sign of life. The family has decided to go ahead, despite the fact that there is no sign of life here, the knowledge that Nancy is still alive. The family has decided to go ahead and pay the kidnapper for her return. That's somewhat unusual, but it's up to the family to make the decision whether or not they're going to pay a ransom and whether or not they're going to pay it, despite the fact that they don't have proof that their mother is still being held alive.
So the latest reporting from the purported ransom note is that the abductors are asking for $6 million in Bitcoin for Nancy Guthrie's return. Now, I know Bitcoin, the whole point of it is that it's not traceable, but I was reading you said that it is possible to recover Bitcoin in these situations. Help me understand.
So Bitcoin is something that is sometimes traceable in that it would be traceable if the person reused a Bitcoin address that had been used in a previous case. I don't think that's the case in this particular situation. And then you would have to actually be able to put your hands on the bad guy in this case, the kidnapper, to be able to recover these funds. So I don't think that this money, if it's paid, will be recoverable unless they actually identify the kidnapper and are able to go and actually physically arrest them. Normally in a kidnapping case, when you do the money delivery, the ransom delivery, that's an opportunity for law enforcement to move in on it. With Bitcoin, that opportunity is lost. And so I think that they'll have to identify the kidnapper by other means. We are not aware of all the details of the leads that are being worked by law enforcement in this case. It's somewhat frustrating to the public not seeing how this plays out, but that's not unusual in any law enforcement investigation. And so there are some leads that we are seeing pursued. We see them still going back out to the property now the third time that they have gone in there declaring it a crime scene. I'm surprised that it was not declared a crime scene and held as a crime scene from the very beginning. And we're also seeing other things such as the pursuit of that suspicious vehicle that was in the neighborhood. We've yet to see the result of that. And also the actions over there at Annie's house. We don't know why that returned to her house and what was removed from her house. There are a number of investigative leads that we are seeing play out, but there are far more than what we are seeing play out, and we're just not aware of those details.
Okay, so on the day with this deadline, we have many more questions than answers. Ken Gray, thank you for your time. We're just hours away from a reported deadline from Nancy Guthrie's captors. An apparent ransom note set at 5 p.m. today. That deadline for a payment of $6 million, and that's according to a CNN affiliate. The Guthrie family says that they will pay.
We received your message, and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
CNN's Ivan Rodriguez is in Pima County, Arizona. Ivan, I want to start with something we were hearing today, that there's not word yet about proof of life for Nancy Guthrie. Can you talk about what you're hearing and where this investigation stands?
Heidi, good morning. That's right. Still no proof of life. This morning, when we arrived here outside of Nancy Guthrie's home, there was already a sheriff deputy here parked outside of her home. And we know, based on previous reporting, that the Nancy Guthrie family had requested that the Pima County Sheriff remain on site in order to continue to guard the home. So that is something that we expected to see this morning. We're probably going to see that throughout the day as well. Now, at least 2 investigators were seen examining a septic tank Sunday afternoon, and they were caught on video opening that tank using a long stick to poke inside, even at times using a flashlight to take a closer look. In there, they were on site for a couple of hours, but the Pima County Sheriff didn't exactly release any details as to why they were looking specifically at that septic tank. They did mention, however, that they were going back to multiple locations to do follow-up investigation work. And that is something, Audie, that we have seen now for the last several days. Many investigators going back to different homes, like Annie Guthrie's home, the eldest daughter of Nancy. They were there on Saturday night, where 3 unmarked vehicles were in that driveway for several hours while sheriff deputies were inside. And although the lights appeared dim inside of the home and the blinds were drawn. Bright flashes appear to indicate that authorities may have been taking photographs inside of that home. When investigators did leave around 10:30 p.m. local time, they left with a bag that was placed in the back of a vehicle. A sheriff deputy was also seen wearing blue latex gloves. And again, we'll remember that Nancy Guthrie was at her daughter Annie's home the night before she disappeared. And I also want to take a second here to mention Nancy's health, because Sheriff Nanos mentioned last week that she does take life-saving medication, and it could be, quote, fatal if she goes without it. And now she's been without that medication potentially for a week.
I don't think she was kidnapped. We would have heard, listen, there would have been a video, there would have been a photograph, there would have been something, a lock of hair, a drop of blood, something mailed to somebody so they could verify, yes, in fact, these people have my mother. Kidnappers want to get paid quickly. They don't want this thing to linger. If you're negotiating with another drug dealer in South America somewhere, it could go on for a few weeks, a month, until they get bored and decide this is not worth it. And it's either pay up or we're going to kill this person. And it's always a negotiation, right? The first figure they throw out is never what actually gets paid, like any good business deal. There's going to be a negotiation, but it's going to be a fast and hard one. And there's been no negotiations. No one's called up and said, hey, where is my money? That hasn't happened. For the simple reason is nobody's kidnapped her, I don't think. If you're a good kidnapper, you're going to grab the medication on the way out the door, because you're going to have to take care of her. You're going to have to keep her alive and healthy, right? So it shows a total lack of planning, the total lack of forensic evidence of anyone being in that house, of grabbing her, is another clue that she wasn't kidnapped. You know, you walk in somewhere, you're going to leave something. I don't care who you are. You're going to leave some DNA, some footprints, some fingerprints, blood if anyone gets cut on glass or whatever. You know, listen, the FBI is great at crime scene processing. They've been processing this thing for, 6, 7, 8 days now. They've got nothing. If they had something, we'd have heard about it. The problem was it became public very quickly. And my guess is the Russians or Nigerians said, hey, here's an opportunity to make a few dollars. We don't have a body. We don't have proof of anything. We're just going to hope that they panic and pay us. Her mother would be an attractive kidnap target, except for the fact that, well, you kidnap somebody like that and you better batten down the hatches, because, man, everybody's coming for you. Everyone. The entire law enforcement apparatus of Arizona is in gear. The FBI, probably ATF, probably DEA, everyone's jumping on this bandwagon. I mean, there's probably 500 people assigned to this case right now. I don't think anybody in position of authority believes she's alive at this point. And no one wants to say it publicly. This is the problem, right? Listen, when you see the FBI in the roof a week later, and helicopters have been filming that roof for nonstop for 7 days, we're reaching. They got nothing else to do. They've got nothing left, and someone said, hey, get up on the roof, take a look again. Well, I'm sure somebody did take a look for cell phones or any evidence of someone coming off the roof after she came home. Great place to hide, right? I mean, all the technology we have turned up nothing. A lot of that is because she lives in an area that has light pollution issues, and they don't want lights. So Ring cameras don't work. Surveillance cameras don't work. I mean, they've got nothing. They've got no film. They got no evidence that she was taken by anybody at this point, other than some hokey ransom letters, which aren't saying anything except send us money to this untraceable account. I think, unfortunately, it's going to end badly. Mrs. Guthrie's probably going to be found deceased somewhere. I doubt she walked off and someone picked her up and, they're eating tea and cupcakes somewhere in the Arizona area. I very much doubt it. I mean, she has medical issues. I think if she was taken, we'd pretty much know for sure at this point she was really taken. There'd be some forensic evidence to help indicate that happened. Because the feds aren't talking about it, I'm pretty sure there's no forensic evidence indicating she was kidnapped at all. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. It doesn't bother me to be wrong. Seldom am I wrong.
Our social media accounts for All Things America Reports. The Story with Martha, who's never boring, starts right now.
Thank you very much, you guys. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum. And of course, this continues to be the story. A reported second ransom deadline issued by Nancy Guthrie's potential abductors would be just 4 hours from right now. A very tight window, if indeed that is a real deadline. Now, TMZ reporting, quote, a Bitcoin account allegedly set up to accept funds in exchange for Nancy was still sitting empty this morning. Law enforcement activity at Nancy's home and her daughter Annie's home happening over the weekend, and Savannah and her family making another heartbreaking plea for their mother.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
Yeah, everybody just looking at that word for word, trying to discern the messages that are in this for these potential kidnappers. But there are so many big questions looming in this story. Former FBI Special Agent Jonathan Gilliam is going to join us in just a moment. He has some very interesting thoughts on what's at play here. And Fox is live on the ground in Tucson. Former prosecutor Joshua Ritter is standing by. But first, let's go to senior correspondent Alicia Acuna, who has been digging into this case very closely on the scene. Hi, Alicia.
Hi, Martha. Regarding that TMZ report that the Bitcoin address attached to the ransom note has not received funds, they write, quote, it is unclear how long it typically takes for accounts to update. But as of now, the confirmed balance in the publicly viewable account stands at 0 with no transactions recorded. But remember, there was a second note that was sent, but only to one local TV station. That note has not been made public, and it is entirely possible the person who wrote it gave a new and different Bitcoin address. The Guthries say they will pay, and if and when that happens, it's not long before the recipient gets their money.
When you want to transfer Bitcoin around the world, it's going to take you anywhere from about 10 minutes to 1 hour, depending upon the amount and the speed in which you've asked for this to go, for it to get from one place to the next place. It's still an open-ended question about whether this is traceable or not. It can be at times, sometimes it's not.
Investigators had a very busy weekend. Sunday afternoon, our Fox flight team shot this video of 2 members of law enforcement in the back of Nancy Guthrie's home, probing what looked like a septic tank. They were there for about an hour. On Saturday night, our Fox digital team was at Annie Guthrie and her husband's home when authorities arrived. This happened around 8 o'clock in the evening. They went inside, and flashes of light, like what you get from a camera, could be seen coming from both the garage and another room in the house. And from what we understand, Martha, the family was not there at the time, but law enforcement was there for about 2.5 hours. Martha?
A lot of questions. All of that raises. Alicia, thank you very much. With that, we bring in Jonathan Gilliam, former FBI special agent, worked on criminal and counterterrorism squads, and also served as a Navy SEAL. Jonathan, it's good to have you with us. Thank you very much for
good to be with you,
joining
Martha.
us today. So, what stands out to you, at this point? We're just a few hours away. You hear this word that there's no money in this one account. One reference to U.S. dollars, making some people think this is a foreign actor, if indeed there is somebody, who is an abductor here. What do you make of all of it right now, Jonathan?
Well, I've been saying all week that we definitely have one crime that occurred. We know that Nancy Guthrie was kidnapped or was removed from that house, and that there was some violence that occurred there. We still don't know if, in this day and age, with AI and with the ability of people to scam people online, we still don't know if this ransom is real. Now, the FBI potentially or most likely knows more than we do in the local law enforcement. But I've said all along, AI, we look online and we see AI videos of things that just aren't real but look absolutely real. So it's hard to tell. We're in uncharted territory here when it comes to these types of crimes. These Bitcoin kidnappings happen all the time in other countries like Mexico or someplace like that, but they are overt with what they want, and they have open communication, and they show proof of life typically. The way this is going now is that we still don't know the reality of Nancy Guthrie and who these people are that are trying to extort these millions from Savannah Guthrie and her family. So it's a very perplexing place that we're in. But what would be very interesting if the deposit goes through and the transaction goes through, this will be an amazing thing to watch the FBI and to see how they react globally and to see if they can track this.
Yes. I think about other old kidnapping cases, and we're going to go into some detail on some of these in a moment, but where bags of money were exchanged. In one very high-profile case, they asked for $10 bills. In this case, you've got this request for USD, but you obviously would not want to release the money until you knew, you wouldn't want to hit send on that money, on that Bitcoin, until you knew that you would have the release of this person. And it, from what we know, and I hope there's more at work here, they don't have any of that kind of proof yet.
Right, we haven't been told, and not that we would be told, but we haven't seen any open lines of communication. We've seen these back and forth through letters or emails that go to news organizations and then social media posts by the Guthries. So it's just a very uncertain thing when you are at this point, because if this is some kind of a scam like you see with from India, you see those types of money scams. From Nigeria, you see a lot of scams from there. If that's what this is, then that $6 million is going to go away, and nobody will still know where Nancy Guthrie is. The other problem is if it is real, we may still not know.
Yeah. There's a lot at play here. And going back to Alicia's reporting about the FBI going back to Annie Guthrie, the sister's home, and Alicia reported that it was understood that no one was home at that residence, but that there were flashes going off, pictures being taken in the garage and other parts of the house. What does that tell you, Jonathan?
Well, it tells me that they're looking at particular things. I mean, they are now focusing. They went back to Nancy's house several times, and so they're either buttoning up things that they didn't actually look at earlier in the investigation, or they are acting on evidence or tips that they may have gotten. And so the fact that they're at those two places, I mean, her daughter and her husband were the last two people to see her and to drop her off. So it's not unrealistic that law enforcement would go back there and that they would become a suspect of this. But for them to go back now and photograph things, they're going in with equipment that looks through cell phones and computers. It tells me that there are some investigators, most likely, that are keying in on them for one or more reasons.
Wow. All right, we will watch what happens over the next couple of hours. We're definitely in a new world with AI and...
One thing that's clear is the Guthrie family believes there is at least a chance the ransom notes are from Nancy's captor.
And, it brings... Normally, we know this group harmed, Miss Guthrie in the initial abduction because there was blood left at the scene, and we only know what blood was left outside. We don't know anything about what's been done forensically inside the house. So that's my biggest concern, is that the propensity for violence from the get-go is why everyone should be very concerned, and not so much because of the deadline, but because that the groups doing this has already shown they're willing to be violent with an 84-year-old woman, grandmother as well.
So, I mean, one of the big questions here is, are the people torturing the family with these notes the same people that have or hurt Nancy Guthrie 8.5 days ago? I was saying to Brian Enton in the first segment, Dan, I just have a really hard time believing the people writing these notes were involved in Nancy's kidnapping or whatever happened to her, because I was saying that if I had Nancy Guthrie, if I went to the trouble to kidnap somebody and then wanted to prove to somebody that I had her, I would not be referencing some damaged floodlight or where her Apple Watch was in her home. That's That's bullshit. That's the kind of stuff you manage to see through a window. And to me, it sounds like you're trying to sound like you know more than you do. If you've got Nancy, you can ask her anything that would prove to her 3 children, who know her better than anybody, that you actually have her. You don't have to do a picture. You don't need a video. Right. You just need her to tell you things only the children and the mother would remember from their childhoods.
100%, and that's you're not a H&R, a K&R background or hostage negotiator, but I had that suspicion literally from almost day one when the first ransom note came out. First off, they sent the ransom note to TMZ, a tabloid network, and then the local news media. All right, that's not how K&R Kidnap for Ransom works. If kidnapping is a business around the world, and the groups that do the kidnapping, they have the prize. They grab the prize, and they want to keep that prize protected. And they want to demonstrate to the prospective buyer, payer, that we have who you're looking for. Let's start the negotiation. And you come out with a large number. That $4 million initial to $6 million, the latest ransom demand, that's not outside the norm range for an American, because that's, this is a big business. And because obviously Savannah Guthrie, big news network, morning show host, she's going to have the resources to probably come up with that kind of money, and that's what they're counting on. But then you've got to negotiate in good faith. And from no way, shape, or form has the group that is claiming to hold her been operating in good faith. And the fact that they haven't been able to provide a substantive proof of life, or even trying to submit some AI version of it, which could have been, suspect that they're trying to do this. But I am suspect that the group that has her is the group that took her response for abduction is the group that is sending these messages. They may be related, but I really think this is part of the show and drama to drive up this news media story. And why is that happening? Let's go to the underlying motives. And the motives may not be money. And I don't think it's money they want here. I think they want the news media attention, focus on this case, to maybe get some other news stories off the net. And then go, why did they target, Savannah Guthrie? And you have to look at, well, she's not a controversial figure like yourself, or say a Candace Owen, where you have people on the left or right. I mean, just being honest, that you've got enemies. You've got people that don't like you. But, Savannah Guthrie is, I don't watch her morning show, but I know who she is. And she's like a very nice lady. And, what's the most controversial thing she's ever done? Maybe some of her interviews in the past.
Well, I mean, she's not controversial, but that doesn't rule out some freak stalker who just interpreted some report she did as an attack, or as some sort of, that element is still alive and well around her. And we can't rule that out, that it's some stranger who's obsessed with her.
Oh, of course. But then why are you going after the mother unless you're trying to hurt her? So who has a reason to want to hurt Savannah Guthrie? Wouldn't it be the list would not be long, but go to some of her interviews. And I'm not the one coming up with this, because this conversation I've had, with virtually everyone I've talked to, especially offline, when you don't have a 2-minute segment on a news channel. She interviewed a lot of the Epstein victims, in-depth interviews with Virginia Giuffre and some of the other women. And what came out a week before this abduction, days before, the Epstein files, all over the news. And now what is taken over the news media? And maybe that was done intentionally. I'm not saying that's the case, but there's more to this group. I do not think it's a traditional kidnap for ransom. They're not demonstrating any of the things that are normally associated with people that are in the kidnapping business to make money. And I think it's the media attention. But you have to go into it that there are evil people out there that will do terrible things to wonderful human beings. I dealt with that. We had a woman in Iraq. Her name was Margaret Hassan. She was the director of CARE International. She was a 5'1", 180-pound Irish woman who'd lived in Iraq for 20 plus years and married a local. She lived the fourth pillar of Islam, which is Zakat. She gave alms to the poor. She fed the poor. She was a beloved woman, and that did not protect her. She was murdered by her captors, and I'm one of the few Americans who sadly had to watch that execution video, and it was very troubled and very sad. So there's evil in the world, and no matter how good you are, that doesn't protect you from someone that wants to hurt you.
So if you were advising this family at this point, and we are told that the second note did not contain proof of life, that they're revealing very little about it, but we are told it did not contain proof of life. And we know the first letter said they had Nancy and claimed she was alive, I believe, but did not have proof of life. You saw the video from the family begging for such proof after they received the first note. Would you advise them to pay? Because right now, it's the day of the deadline, 5 p.m. tonight, and TMZ is just reporting that the Bitcoin account allegedly set up to accept these funds is empty as of this time this morning. It's unclear how long it typically takes accounts to update, they write, but as of now, the confirmed balance in the publicly viewable account stands at 0 with no transactions recorded. So at least as of almost 1 p.m. Eastern time, the family has not made any deposits into the Bitcoin account. How would you advise them?
Well, this is just very harsh, and it's only come from experience, because I think someone evil enough to hurt an 84-year-old woman makes me lean, okay. My initial thoughts again a week ago was a cartel involved in this, because the close proximity to the Arizona Mexican border, the fact that I know the cartels have no problem with kidnapping. They're beyond Al Qaeda. They're probably the biggest kidnapping ring out there. Formerly the FARC had that title. So was that a connection to the FARC, to the cartels, because they have a propensity to violence? They have kidnapped young social media influencers in Mexico and murdered them. So they're not above the thought. But I always started with the notion, especially when I would talk to the ambassadors from these countries where they had hostages, I would always be upfront with them and say, sir, you have to begin with the presumption that your citizens that have been kidnapped by this group claiming to be affiliated with Al Qaeda or whoever, that they're not coming home. You have to start with that presumption. And in the fact that this group has not shown proof of life, and I really think the media is what they're going for. So we had deadlines come and go with Al Qaeda. Jill Carroll, that young Christian Science reporter, 28-year-old girl, American girl, she had deadlines come and go. And she ended up brought home after 83 days of captivity because of pressure put on by special forces, the unit that went out every night to hunt for her. And she was brought home safely because the unit, the kidnapping ring finally threw their hands up and said, maybe if we give her up, these bad dudes will stop coming after us. And that's ultimately what happened. So the family, I would strongly recommend to not pay the ransom, not pay any of it, because I don't think I think that'd be money going into the wind for nothing, because I don't trust. There's no trust and good faith between this group and the family, and they've shown none of it, and they're just torturing Savannah and her family. And I would be blunt enough to speak to the family that let's start with the presumption that your mother did not survive the initial abduction, and this may have been a home invasion that went wrong, may have been a stalker, as you said, to do the same. But I would recommend strongly against paying the ransom today by that deadline.
International disputes, inflation, rising national debt, digital currency.
Guthrie's desperate plea coming 3.5 hours before the second deadline, which was given as 7 Eastern tonight, obviously just a couple of minutes ago. Now, that's according to the original alleged ransom note, a note which demanded $6 million by 5 p.m. local time. That's 7 o'clock Eastern, according to our affiliate, KGUN. But according to TMZ, the Bitcoin account referenced in the ransom note still has a 0 balance.
We believe our mom is still out there.
Savannah Guthrie, sitting alone, makes a direct appeal to the public for help in the search for her missing mother, Nancy Guthrie, 9 days after she was taken in the middle of the night from her home in Tucson, Arizona.
We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where.
It's been 3 days since the alleged kidnapper sent a second ransom note to a local TV station after demanding $6 million. The latest note did not include a deadline. The FBI and the local sheriff's department have searched Nancy's neighborhood day and night, scouring her home, her rooftop, even an underground septic tank near her property. Searches by air and ground of the nearby foothills and desert, and still Nancy's no closer to coming home. Savannah and her family are reaching out again, this time for more than prayers, asking people to look for their mother wherever they can.
No matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement.
Expressing gratitude in this horrific moment as she appeals to everyone concerned about her mother's fate.
Thank you so much for all of the prayers, because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place.
This is the fourth video the family has posted to social media, including 2 from all 3 of Nancy's children and 1 video just from her son. Previous posts were aimed at the kidnappers.
First, we have to know that you have our mom. We want to talk to you, and we are waiting for contact.
And even directly to their mom.
Everyone is looking for you, Mommy, everywhere. We will not rest.
On Saturday, the siblings again reached out to the potential kidnappers, offering payment.
We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
With each message, another glimpse into this nightmare that Nancy Guthrie's family is facing, seemingly with no end in sight.
We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
You've been looking at the Bitcoin account. What are you reporting?
There's nothing there. It has not been deposited. Aaron, I was thinking of something that you raised on Friday when you spoke to the reporter from KOLD and asked about the second note. And you asked her if this was a ransom note. And she kind of carefully said that she doesn't think authorities would characterize it as a ransom note. The only other thing I can think of, what if, and I don't know this, but I'm just raising this, what if there was another Bitcoin address in that second ransom letter that doesn't align with the one we received? I don't know why they would do this, and it doesn't make sense to me, because if Savannah did pay this money, I don't know that it's in her interest to do an APB for everybody to look out for somebody who might have her mom or to find her mom if they paid the money and they're waiting for the return of their mother. I don't know that she would go out with a call like that. So on a level, I don't see why there would be another Bitcoin account. But I think it's possible it was in this letter. I want to read you I'll read you one line from the ransom note we received. And they say, "It is in the best interest of everyone to have this completed as soon as possible." So, you know, this was way back when the first ransom note was issued, and days passed. And on Saturday, Savannah said, "We are going to pay this." So it's baffling to us. We just don't understand what has transpired, but the account we're looking at does not show a deposit.
And so you said the original sentence was, "It is in the best interest of everyone to have this completed as soon as possible." All right. So now I understand exactly what you're saying, right? It was interesting that the way that that reporter who had seen the second letter you're right, did characterize it as not a ransom note. But so we don't know if there was an additional address in it or not. But when you talk about the Bitcoin address itself, my understanding is that, Harvey, it's not hard to check it. I mean, you're checking it frequently, right? That Bitcoin address?
Not hard to check it, but almost impossible, and maybe impossible to find out who is it going to. That's the issue. But we're not seeing a deposit, and we've been looking obviously all day. And we looked at 4 o'clock our time, 5 o'clock Tucson time, and we're not seeing it.
And you know, we were talking to a crypto expert, John Griffin. He was saying, okay, whoever set up this particular Bitcoin account does show a basic level of crypto knowledge, which is certainly consistent with everything else, right? No one has been able to find out the whereabouts of Nancy Guthrie, so there's nothing basic about the activities here. But then he added, if they're a sophisticated crypto operator, that they will move the funds, he said, in such a way that it'll go to other cryptocurrencies, and then the tracks will disappear. Because, you know, we all hear, oh, Bitcoin's supposed to be all transparent. Although then we hear, but no one will have any idea on God's green earth whose account this is. But, you know, that the fact that they could transfer this from Bitcoin into other cryptocurrencies. Are you hearing this also, Harvey, from your experts?
Yeah, I mean, look, what we're hearing is that it should show up at least at some point. I mean, we're checking this every minute. It
Yeah.
should show up at some point in this account, and we just haven't seen it. But again, Aaron, I'm just puzzled that Savannah said on Saturday they were going to pay the money. And clearly they were responding to something in that letter when she said, we understand.